Cavecast, the uncensored show for nerds of all kinds.
The stand cast.
The stand cast?
We just stand and talk.
You know, it's a true window into how things really are because, I mean, we do just, you know, like that's all we do pretty much all day. That's what anybody that, you know, comes over, they're like, dude, are you going to sit down? No, I'm good.
No. And do you know why? This will probably be a great segue into the show is because of the fact not having cell phones and smartphones. Think about it. When we were kids, and we had our game systems. Most boys our age, no matter what, you know, well, everybody had, you know, a game system, but
yeah, some sort of form,
right?
Yeah.
But up until I think we figured out the one day, I forget, it was like I think it was the Xbox was the first wireless controller. So you only had X amount of feet of cord. You had to stand and play a video game and, you know, to the TV.
Right.
So I think that just like our generations, like we stand a lot because it's what we did as kids because, well, that's what we had to do for entertainment.
Yeah, I would say that there's definitely some truth to that.
I mean, I don't want to say, yeah, I was just saying that's funny that it comes to like,
yeah,
you know.
well, because think about it. It's like, you know, there was this specific, like, you know, unconscious or subconscious thing that you had to have when, especially playing the N64, because dude, like if you pulled on those controllers just enough, dude, there was not a lot of friction holding that stuff in, and it would just like pop out. Like you're playing Turok and you freak out or whatever, and
Never
you pull it
played
back. Oh, dude, it's great. But nevertheless, so yeah, so tonight is about life before cell phones.
Yeah, not smartphones.
Well, sorry, yeah, smartphones. Yeah, again, we need to reiterate is that this is not life before phones, life before cell phones. This is life before smartphones.
Correct.
When do you think was the first time that you like actually had like your own cellular device, just to kind of get us started? Like how old
cellular device?
Yeah, just in general. Like let's not start with smartphones just yet.
I was like 18. And the reason I remember that is I was dating somebody at the time. I was freshly working at Burger King, and I was at the mall, and one of the kiosk guys got me, and that's how.
Oh my God, the mall! Oh my!
It was the Nokia, like brick phone that had like the gummy, like green highlighted numbers on it, and you could play Centipede on it.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought it was so cool.
Yeah, and so that was still around the time of like you had to like hit numbers to text.
Yeah, and dude, it was fucking awful. I'm pretty sure my first text message was to Brad McCurdy.
Oh, really?
I'm almost positive.
Yeah, it's dude. Okay. I don't know whether or not it was on purpose or not, but mom and dad did not give me a cell phone until I think I was like maybe like 15 or 16. And
sure.
I remember thinking to myself, like, you know, like I'm such a good boy. Like it's one of those where it's like I only wanted one just in case, like, you know, if I was out and about and like needed to, you know, call for a ride or needed something or whatever. Like I wasn't into it to be like, you know, oh, I want to be a stereotypical teen to get one.
Sure.
And I got it on Christmas morning. It was in my stocking. And I remember like sitting down, you know, to open up gifts and everything. And my stocking started buzzing out of nowhere. And I was like, what is that? And dad looked at me. He's like, you better pick it up. he's like, go get it. Like, so I took it off. It was heavy. It was crazy. But the stocking, not the phone. The phone was actually, you could like chuck it across the room.
What kind of phone did you get? A Zach Morris phone?
I got one of those really big phones that were in Vice City. You know, so it's like carrying it on my hip at school, you know, so no. But so yeah, like it's weird because I was introduced to the whole like, all right, cool. I've got an accessibility in my hands that I did not have prior. Mm-hmm. And it's like, I think that that's kind of like the core of like what eventually happened was that it's like, you know, we went from, you know, again, typing on, you know, numbers to make letters to now it's, we upload TikToks, we check our bank statements, we do all these things. Like actually, it's such a strange thing.
My era was actually a little before that. My era was pagers.
Oh my God, I forgot about pagers. Oh
so I begged and begged and begged and begged and begged to have one. And I only had one for like a few months at one point, like really later as a teenager, like kind of right before the cell phone. But yeah, the pagers were my era as far as like the first thing that you had. Yeah. But it was still just like you said, payphones were a thing back then, and you would like people had like codes and stuff that they would like send you, or like excuse me, they would send you, or like, you know, like what they wanted. Or dude, it was a crazy time because I remember playing basketball just down the road here, you know, all my life as a kid, and everybody had their pagers, and there would be times where people were like, whoa, time. And go, all right, it's my bitch, I gotta go. Like,
yeah, right.
All right, oh, geez. But then it did progress into all this, and then now we have these amazing devices that kind of control us on a daily basis.
Yeah.
And the biggest thing for me now is that I try so hard not to be one of those people that are so dependent on this thing. Mm-hmm. But I am. Like, my whole life like revolves around this. It is my device to, call people if I'm in an emergency. It is my device to, when I'm bored. It's the device that shoots my YouTube video. Like, it goes beyond just being a phone anymore.
Yeah.
So this is going to be a kind of interesting conversation tonight.
Yeah. I think that kind of where my mind is at thinking about this is that, like we talked about this before, the podcast was that, like, okay, what, time frame are we talking here as far as like, when it comes to like when cell phones and more importantly, how we're connected through them, or sorry, smartphones, like how I'm going to make that mistake all night, but it's like that, idea of just like, okay, cool. Like, when did it become normal for somebody to have a large phone with a screen that didn't obstruct your pocket so much? And really, it's the 90s and the 2000s. Like, it's that's specifically like what you were talking about, was that it's like that's the time frame that we could really pinpoint and think about. That
coming to about 2010,
yes,
roughly, I would say, give or take a few years. But it's this is kind of interesting because I see kids now, I see teenagers now, and what they do and don't do. And it's kind of crazy because I think I'm by far old, but I am older. And the fact that, you always hear those, the older generation, like back in my day.
We didn't have none of that shit. Like, yeah, right. Yeah.
We didn't. But really all it is one thing. Mm-hmm. And it's sad that a lot of these kids grow up without doing just some of the fun things that we did as kids or that we had because these things didn't exist. Mm-hmm. Whether it just be riding your bike for hours on end until you got that one ramp jump right or whatever it was, or
you were outside
beating a video game or whatever it is that there's just a lot that I feel like kids don't do anymore. And it is because of this. They are so focused on phones and just video games. Mm-hmm. We had those.
Right.
But it wasn't the same still.
No, it wasn't.
Would you agree that like in the 90s and early 2000s that video gaming and how it like took over people's lives was not the same as it is now?
No, it's, I think that again, like it all kind of circles back to this whole connectivity thing, because think about it, is that like the peak of my, gaming experience as a kid, it started off with the Nintendo 64. And, but again, it was like I wasted many hours on that thing just by myself. Then we move quite a bit into the future, and it's like, okay, now we have Call of Duty, and there's people that are playing with, like there's Canadians that are playing with people from the Netherlands. There's people that are playing.
Right.
It's like this weird thing started to happen where it was like, I know this is kind of becoming more about video games, but I think that it's the truth though. It's like there's this thing that happened where it's like all of a sudden everything was just connected. Mm-hmm. And it's like, okay, cool. So it's like, I can play with my friend, in this place or whatever. Like, so clearly you're going to, sink more time to play with your friend that's, that's super far away. And then it's like getting into the whole, like the tech thing, like it's just tech did nothing but get better.
Right.
And it's weird how it's like almost kind of like how we've progressed. Like you think about like stuff that was invented, like the light bulb and like all this stuff. It's like, it's really not been that long in the grand scheme of things, especially if you look at it through an evolutionary standpoint. Because it's like you have millions of years that, we've come to this point or whatever. And then now it's like, okay, there's been thousands in increments of those thousands of like what's happened. And it's like, oh shit, like humanity's kind of figuring some stuff out, but in a way it's also limiting, because it's like there's a part of me that looks at it and thinks that it's almost like Jeff Goldblum. It's like you thought about so much about how you could, is that you didn't think about whether or not you should.
Right. And the thing is that even, having devices like this, they do, like I said, they do kind of control our day to day, but it's the fact that I think that irritates me as well, but even though I'm one of those people, is that you go from doing this to then immediately over here to a TV, a video game, or whatever it is.
Yes.
All you're doing is staring at a screen anymore. So before, not smartphones, before smartphones, you know, we were forced in a way, but we were conditioned to be able to do other things. We could sit in a house for hours and not have a cell phone or a smartphone or a computer and be just fine.
Now, okay, so let me ask you this. I want you to go back to a time when you knew for a fact that smartphones were not a thing. What did a normal night look like for you?
I was going to say,
let's look at like almost like from the moment that you would wake up, or maybe even just like the evening, if you want to keep it simple. Like what did you do? Like what
music?
Yes,
music.
Yes.
So if I'm being completely honest, it would be normal shit. But let's say like summertime, like when you don't have to go to school and it's your whole day when you like revolve around your phone now. I would get up, do the normal thing, and then probably either see if somebody was wanting to go play some basketball or whatever. But towards my end of my day, it would be more so in the fact of, I remember one of the things was always watching the library close with mom.
Oh yeah. That was cool.
And it was one of those things like you looked forward to those things. It was like, oh my God, you know, and then when you forget, you're like, oh shit, you know, but having not a phone in front of you gave you a whole different world of things you could do. Mm-hmm. I had so much fun as a kid that I'm actually glad I didn't have this as a kid.
Yes. Yeah.
There's a lot to be said about like you just said, your day to day, but yeah, I would get up, I would play with my friends, I would listen to music all day. I would hide it from mom.
Oh, because, 100%.
Because I wasn't allowed to listen to certain things, and that was kind of like my day was dodging all of that. And then still getting to listen to the songs I wanted to.
You're just a musical acrobat, like just
But that was basically my day. That was my YouTube. That was my Pandora. Mm-hmm. So I still do the same thing as an adult for the most part. I listen to a lot of music. Yes, it's on my cell phone, but that's like what it is now. I don't need a Walkman. I don't need a Discman. Yes, a fucking Walkman.
Yes. Yeah. Right. Yeah.
So, but. It's odd to me on how much it's just grown and kind of zombified everybody. No pun intended for Ronnie, but yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's so difficult because I think about, being a kid and, it's like, like the big thing was, parents would kick you out. Like, go away for 5 hours. Go. I don't care what you do. Just come back alive. They didn't give a shit
what we did.
Yeah, no, it's
in a good way, I mean.
I never understood it as a kid because it was one of those where it was like, no, what if I don't want to? Like, it's like I don't want to be outside. I was outside all day yesterday. Like, I want to be inside. And as an adult, like, I'm not a parent, but I look at it where it's like, you need to go. Like, it's like, I just got off of work. I need a few hours to collect. Like, I will see you at dinner. Like, it's like that. Like, it makes sense now. And it's like, there's almost like a structure of life that
like
doesn't
shifted.
It doesn't happen anymore. It's because it's like man, I spent so much time watching movies, playing video games. There was even times like I actually read books, guys. Like that happened.
Nerd.
Like, I know it's like I read not all of Harry Potter. I read all the way to the last book and then stopped for whatever reason. I think time anyway. But I was a reader at one point, and I was the kid that was kind of glued to a screen even when it's like there was a time when like screens weren't as like easily accessible. Mm-hmm. So my way of life never changed in a way. But what's interesting is that it's like I still was going outside and still was doing things. So it's just it's hard because a lot of the best memories that I have as a kid was kind of like having like Stand By Me moments.
Okay.
And like, being out in the woods and like, building forts and, pretending to, like we did like, like as a kid, I remember like I was like 9 or something, but there was a friend of ours that had a bunch of camouflage that we could wear. And like, we would like do war stuff. We had weapons. It was like, no, I want the phaser gun this time or whatever. So it's like, cause I mean, it's all bullshit. It means nothing. You're not shooting anything, but it was imagination, pretending. And like, even the kids at school that were you know, maybe above that, or like what you would think, like whenever they would get home, that's what they would do.
Yes.
And it's like they had to utilize their imagination outside, and it was so interesting. And it's like more so now looking back on it. And I don't know, man, like there's something just so sacred about that. Like it's, you know, I have a lot of really good and a lot of, you know, bad memories, like, you know, with those things. But in the same hand as that, because I mean, I was a kid that was bullied and like, you know, so like nothing was perfect. But in the same hand is that when everybody that you were hanging out with, when you were on the same page and you were like in it, there was something about that cannot be replicated anywhere else. It's so insane.
You know, I think friendships were a lot stronger back then. I know that sounds corny, but at the same time, like, again, I see some of these kids, you know, as far as, you know, raising some of my own as, you know, stepchildren or whatever, but you know, this is what they do. They have it in their face, and then when they set it down, it's onto a video game or it's onto this. Like, outside doesn't really exist to them anymore. So your friendship, I feel like, doesn't get as strong with other people because you're not out doing things like me and Jake would do, or you and Luke would do, or you know, it's like there was this, like you said, like bond almost that you had. Now it's just, do you want to come over and watch this with me? Do you want to come over and play this? Yeah, that's great. We did that too.
Right.
But we did other things. And I think it's just because maybe we had to be more creative, you know, as far as like what to do on a day-to-day basis. But I remember building a treehouse at like 16 years old.
Do kids even know what a treehouse even is anymore?
Probably not. But that's the thing, is that we were well past needing a treehouse, but me and Jake fucking did it. We smoked some dirt weed and wanted to build a treehouse. Like, so like
we got boards and some hammers. Let's go.
That's basically what it was. But like, we had fun. We had fun. Like that was the thing, is that I think fun now is completely different than what it used to be. And that's sad.
Here's an interesting thought, and I'm gonna get this guy's name wrong, so I'm not even gonna try. But he was on Joe Rogan. He was the one that talked about Anthony Bourdain. He was one that got emotional. That gentleman in particular, he actually has lived an incredible life, like living over like with tribes and like learning like what human beings actually do. Like he's explored the world, and it's interesting about this because it's almost kind of like a human psychology thing. Is that it's like when you have nothing, you then become creative to find fun.
Right.
And from what I remember, there was a moment that he was laying down to go to sleep, and everybody has like their huts or their tents or like whatever they're like, all the families know, all the people are sleeping in. And he started hearing noises like, or like just like different things. And it was all the men were making each other laugh. It was like they were just making funny, stupid noises, just like because of like, you know, hey, like let's see if we can get, you know, so and so to like to bust tonight, as far as like see if we can get him laughing. Like, and it was so cool how he said it, is that he's like, they have nothing else. They have each other. Right. They have themselves. And it's like you have to like it's so incredible that it's like there's people that exist on this planet that still have that magic. And it's so like so amazing to have that. And like it reminds me, like whenever like there are days that I'm heavily on my phone, but there are days that I push my phone away, or I do put it on do not disturb, or like whatever, like it in a way, like it makes me scared to do it because like I know that comes from a lot of like personal anxiety for like many different reasons, but it's one of those where it's like we went from growing up in the 90s having a landline that if it rang, we knew to pay attention to it because it was more than likely a parent from work, or mom would call from like, you know, from the office, or dad would call or whatever. Like that was kind of what shaped our day, unless if we knew that like a grandparent was coming over that day to pick us up, or like, you know, whatever. Like we are so connected now that it's one of those that when we disconnect, there's this
that's
like,
weird.
It's like more so like when I was in a relationship, it would be kind of impossible for me to do that because I'm somebody that wants to be connected all the time and I want to be engaged. But in the same hand, even now, like I find myself doing it, and like that's not even the point anymore. It's like there's this thing that allows me to know exactly when Joey sends me a guitar video, or like when, you know, like Mike and I are talking about, you know, different things like, you know, with the Deadheads or like whatever. Like it's so weird. And it's it's something that I've tried to kind of overcome because I know that I don't want to rely on my phone completely because I am one of those people.
It sucks.
But it's one of those where it's like, man, like I try to remember where like it's like the whole idea of like the whole treehouse thing, but it's like George Carlin being like, yeah, he's like kids went outside and played with a stick. Do kids even play with a stick anymore? Like
right.
no, like they don't have that imagination. Like your stick is no longer a shotgun or a wand. It's a stick off a tree. You're gonna throw it in the woods. Like it's crazy.
I think that we were really blessed with the fact of growing up in the, I grew up in the mid to late 80s, 90s, and early 2000s. Like, and you got the 90s and 2000s that I feel like those generations were the last ones that got to have that kind of freedom. And I'm kind of thankful that like I said, that I grew up like that. The 90s and 2000s were probably, because I grew up in them, but they were the fucking best. I would not take those decades back for anything.
No.
Because just the fun that I had because of that fact, I didn't have that kind of technology, was something awesome. And the fact that, I grew up with in the fact of neon sweatpants and suits. Come on now. Windbreakers.
Man, we got, excuse me, what was it? Like even like when I think about it, like I think of, like crisscross or like things like that. Where it's like the saggy pants and like, the stylization of things. And like, it's like, there's something about the 90s and the 2000s. And we've talked about this a little bit on another podcast, so I'm not going to go like, balls deep into it, but there's something about, especially the 2000s era. Like there was something very special about the fact that like the 2000s just did not give a shit. Like you have things like, again, like you have like Fear, the TV show on MTV where people were sent into a haunted place, Scariest Places on Earth, hosted by Linda Blair, who played The Exorcist. Like, you have The Masked Magician. Like all these different things.
Oh,
like,
I love that.
Like, dude, it's so insane. Like it is
fucking David Blaine.
David Blaine shows up. Chris Angel.
Chris
like I
Angel.
think he even came up on the first podcast. But nevertheless, it's like there's right, dude. That scared the shit out of me the one night. I'm not going to go into the details of that night. Maybe we'll talk about it in another podcast. But no. But it's just interesting where it's like the more and more that we've gotten connected. I think that it kind of like spreads into the idea of that it only takes one tweet for everybody in the world to know something.
Yep.
It only takes, one mistake for everybody to know that about you. It only takes it's all these different things.
Everybody has a camera now.
Yes. And there's advantages and there's disadvantages to that. So it's like, okay, like if this is reality, then, should I be worried about what I post? Should I, be concerned about what I'm going to do and what I'm going to say? Like, guys, like we don't record every conversation that we have.
Right.
And by the way, nobody does, and if you do, that's weird. But it's like, but it's just.
What are you paranoid about? Yeah.
Yeah, right. It's it's interesting because I find myself more and more like trying to be careful with what I say and what I do.
Right.
Almost in general. So I don't know if that's like made me kind of like soft in that aspect, but there's also like a level of like respect I try to have with that too, because I understand that we are connected in such an insane way.
Again, with all of the platforms that are out there and, especially with the power of cell phones and stuff now, that, I've often wondered, is the world more fucked up than it was when we were kids, or do we just see it more? Not because we're just adults, but because, like I said, everybody has a camera now. Everything, like, is there really more crime and racism and all this stuff, or is it just the same as it always has been? It's just documented way more now. Because, like you said, it's almost like this reality of where people see something happening and they automatically record instead of helping whatever scenario that is happening.
Yes. Yeah.
So there is something to be said about that, but. Going back to the whole camcorder thing, not to be funny, but everybody does have one. Remember when it was like a goddamn delicacy that you had a like family video cam? They were this fucking big.
Dude, it was like that. Like you had to build almost like shoulder strength to hold the fucker. Like it was just
and it was just one of those things where
Dad had one.
Yeah, that was like a luxury that now everybody is just fucking spoiled with the fact that we can walk around and film a fucking movie on our phone now.
Yeah.
Like a real movie.
Yeah.
If you have the right stuff to edit it, you can film a fucking movie off of an iPhone or a Samsung now, and that's ridiculous.
It's It's insane.
No wonder nobody wants to do anything else but sit on their phone. Seriously, they got us.
Yeah.
They got us.
They do. And this is also where I try to avoid it as much as possible. And again, even when I'm not on my, my phone, I am playing a game. I am, writing something, or I'm, editing, or I'm, designing or whatever. So like,
but you just said 3 other things that didn't consist of a video game or
Right.
your phone. Now, granted, some of it is technology,
Right.
but think about that though.
Yeah, I know that I never want to use the excuse of this is just how things are, so I'm just going to, follow suit. But in the same hand, it's like, okay, every functionality that I have now, as you said, like they've got us, that it's, I pay my bills. I don't go to City Hall to pay my water bill.
Nope.
I do it online. Yeah. It's so interesting that, it's like that, what these devices have done. Now, what I will say is I want to shift gears into the positives, because there are some very good things about this. Is that, let's take the negative side out of it, of what you could post, or what you can do with your phone. I actually had my mind blown when I realized I could download Roller Coaster Tycoon and play it on my phone.
Right.
And I did it for a long flight, like for work. And I was like, yeah, like something to play on the plane. And it blew my mind even more when I was able to cast my phone to the TV and then play Roller Coaster Tycoon and just like do my thing. Like it was like I could just look at what I was doing, like, oh, sweet, awesome. Like it was almost like having like a controller in my hands.
Yeah.
And that's like there's some really incredible stuff. Like the fact that, yes, I can talk to whoever I want. I can video chat whoever I want.
I was just about to say
like,
that,
It's nice to have that connectivity, but in the same hand is that, how often do we even utilize that? So it's like, it kind of has like that give and take, but it's like, there are some good things. Like there's some awesome stuff that's happening.
Do you know what's really funny is that the positive as far as like what you just stated is that, you can really get a hold of anybody at any time. You can video chat at anybody for the most part, wherever they live or, whatever. And that's great. The problem is that somebody can always fucking find me.
Yeah. And
so not to go back to a negative, it's just the fact of
it's the truth.
But that's just it, is it's like, damn it, man. Like you don't really have an excuse anymore to not answer something.
Well, yeah. And
so that goes back to where you were talking about the just shutting off. I don't hardly text and talk to people. I don't. Right. I really don't.
Right.
But yeah, it's just the fact that I can be found at any given time of day.
Yeah.
That pisses me off.
I like my solitude.
Yes.
So yeah, the Roller Coaster Tycoon thing was really cool. And it's one of those where it's like, even looking at the ability to, check YouTube whenever we need to and stay engaged. Like there's a connectivity that, we've not had before. And it's like, this is about life before, smartphones, but now it's one of those where it's like, we have to come to a point where it's like, we're accepting this thing. And it's like, we already have. And I don't know, like being able to just connect with an audience is just so much easier now. Think about it. The production that is in this room right now, if we would have done this in the 90s, there's no way. We would have had to have taken out a significant loan, sold a body part, and then make that happen. And it's like, it doesn't necessarily mean that the 90s didn't have magic in that aspect, because there was a way to do it. But now it's so simple, a lot of people can do it. It's not that everybody can do it, because it's like, you have to be able to do it well. So, but in the same hand is that it's like, nah, man, like there's something really special about that now, where it's like, if you got the stuff, you can make it happen. And that's awesome.
Like, yeah, like how exciting. That's, when people think that, YouTube and things like that are maybe, I don't want to say not like hard, but expensive. It can be, but like you just said, with the way that, phones are utilized, the lighting that we have, the things that you can do, it's not the same as it was back then. You're absolutely right. But at the same time, if you go back in time, being able to see or do those things, it was super special.
Yeah.
Now,
absolutely.
Now, YouTubers like us are a dime a dozen. Directors and people that do film and stuff. Everybody does that now, and not that it's a flooded culture, but it's just the fact of you really had to be involved and like you said, had the budget and all this stuff to do it. So those eras, that's why I think movies were the best for me. TV shows were the best for me. Hell, even music. The technology was, you had to be a professional.
Yes.
You had to be so it was like, not idolizing, but you kind of idolize those people where it's like, wow, look at this, listen to this. So that's why I like my time growing up without, a smartphone, was because I got to focus on so much more stuff. And then the people that did do those things, they were the masters at it.
Yes.
So, yeah.
I think that there's something that specifically stays in my mind so much. And we're going to go to Time Warner Cable. Okay. The video streaming service that barely worked, that was always choppy. I don't know if it was just our location or whatever, but it's like, again, like, guys, it's easy to watch Netflix and Hulu and Peacock and everything on your, cell phone now. And I also I want you to think about this too, is that think about some of your favorite music videos that you love watching. Think about, the different, TV shows that, like, you're like, oh man, I can't wait to watch this. We lived in a world where we were at the mercy of whatever MTV put out.
Yep.
Whatever cable was doing at that point of like, okay, Everybody Loves Raymond is on, sweet. Okay. But then after that, Friends is on. Okay. Like, cool. Then I have to be in front of my TV and that is what I'm doing tonight.
Yep. You were committed.
When Time Warner Cable brought up their whole like music section that you could finally just watch music videos.
Yeah.
Dude, It was gold. It was gold. Like, speaking of sneaking music, I would actually wake up like an hour early. Like, when I knew that dad went to bed and mom was getting up, I had like this golden hour. And I remember I would watch Slipknot videos.
That's funny.
And watch it on like 2 on the volume, then like try to like listen to it and just like, so, like, it was this thing where it's like, I didn't understand, how easy this stuff was going to be accessible to me. Like, how easy it was going to be at my fingertips later. And one of the things that really stood out to me was that I don't know this gentleman's name, but he was kind of this old, like, hippie looking dude, kind of almost had like hair in his face, and he had his guitar with his button up shirt, and it was a guitar lesson on Time Warner Cable.
Okay.
And I remember clicking on it, and it was the first song that he taught was Should I Stay or Should I Go? And he was like, yeah, he's like, legend has it that he took a knife and put it into the speaker and cut it. That's how he got the raw sound that he did. Nevertheless, we're going to be using this today. I'll teach you how to play it. And it's like, there were interviews with him and being like, yeah, like, my father grew up, in Southern gospel roots. So he's like, that's where I learned all my music. And that's how I became a guitarist. And like, it was so interesting. And like, he went through every single section of how to play the song, even Smoke on the Water. He taught how to play the very basic, like, riffs for it. And then he was like, yeah, it's in G sharp or whatever it is. And he's like, solo over it, do whatever you want. But he's like, but this is how you play it. And they would end it with a performance of him playing it and then his buddy on the mic and singing it. So it showed you practically what he did and how you could use it. So at that time, that was all that I had to learn how to play guitar. And it was books. It was, my buddy Dennis, like a dad's friend, it's like, him, like, like showing me, because like he played speed metal for years, and like he learned that in the, the 70s and 80s, like before there was ever like any kind of tech. Like, there was something so cool about that where it was like, nah, dude, like, I got to watch this and retain all this information.
Right.
I got to take notes. Like, it was not as easy to pick it up and go, all right, let me just type in how to play, this.
Exactly.
It's like, it just, dude, like, Time Warner Cable was such a pain in the ass. But it was just like, dude, like that kind of like, it put it in perspective for me when we were talking about this and thinking about this episode, was that was a big thing that stuck out to me. Was I was like, dude, like, I can look up any clip of almost any TV show, any movie or whatever, like on the internet in general, not just on YouTube.
Right.
And you can find it.
Yeah.
It wasn't like that then, man. Like, it was just like, oh my God. Like, it's like, oh, but the X-Files is on tonight and it's the episode with this. Oh, dude, hell yes.
Yeah,
like,
you had to, like you said, you were at the mercy of that.
Yeah.
And it's so crazy that was just, we didn't know any different. That was just how we lived. It's how we grew up. And, that's why I said, I feel like we grew up in the last great generations of kids and teenagers, because we didn't have this device that just took over. And like I said, there is a lot of benefits to it. You know, there are a lot of great things about, you know, smartphones and stuff, but a lot of downfall too. But we're both victim of it.
Of
you
course.
know, it's
Of
just
course. Yeah.
there's no way around it, no matter how hard you try. That's why, you know, when we're talking to Meg with the kids and stuff, where it's like, you know, you got to find this balance where it's like you can't not let him have the phone because, you know, well, it's like, okay, we'll go watch TV. Well, that's what he was doing on his phone.
Right. Yeah.
It's like, so where does it end? And, you know, it's like not every kid is like that, where they might be doing a bunch of shit other than watching TV, but it's just a fine line that didn't used to be there, and now they've just made one.
Yeah.
And it just threw this whole wrench into society that it just kind of like, well, you either go one way or the other. You either use it for the good or you kind of use it in a bad way. So it's like, what do you do?
Well, I think that what really infuriates me whenever I see it, because it's something that, you know, I've done before, because I know that like right now, my cell phone is in my pocket. Mm-hmm. I have notifications from YouTube, and there's something on Twitter. Let's make sure it's not NF. All right, we're good. So I don't know when this is coming out, but NF and Ronnie still have not dropped their stuff.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, so it's like, yes, I have this cell phone in my pocket at all times, and I'm not gonna lie, I totally forgot where I was going with that. I had it. What were we talking about? Because I feel like I was onto something. It was really good.
Oh, the fact that, you know, the last generation, as far as like, you know, you can either use it for good or bad. And then, you know, that it kind of just changed, like put that like wrench into society. So.
Okay. Yes. Okay, cool. Thank you. This is why Eric is here. Thank you so much. So it took forever to get out of my pocket. And then I was like, oh, I got a spinning thingy and I should probably show them that. No, I won't. So, okay, we're good. Right now, this cell phone is face down.
Yes.
I remember seeing this picture that said, like, it was, I don't know if it was the perspective from a boyfriend or a girlfriend or whatever, but it was just like, his phone's upside down. What's he hiding from me or whatever? Like, and it was like this like kind of thing. And it's like, nah, dude, my cell phone is down because you have my attention.
Right.
Like, that's something that I've always tried to make sure is that it's like, I'm terrible at it in the worst moments. But what I've tried to do is that it's one of those where it's like, if I'm having a conversation with a friend and there's a very serious, like, you know, subject matter or whatever, it's like, nah, dude, I'll throw it over on the couch or whatever. Like, nah, dude, this can wait. It's anything that's on this phone is going to be here when I look at it 2 hours from now. This can wait. And there's a part of me that looks at that and it's like, there are some people that genuinely think that way. Now, let's be clear. There are some people that do have shit to hide on their phone.
Exactly.
I get that. But it's so weird that it's like when you go against the grain on that, because I don't know if it's just because of my upbringing or whatever, but it's like, nah, dude, like I've just always been somebody that when I speak to somebody, I'm looking at them, you know, it's I'm engaged. Like no matter what I am doing, I am engaged with what they're saying. And I don't know, like it really kind of grinds my gears because it's one of those where it's like, man, like, are we that conditioned to the point to where it's like we start to get paranoid because somebody isn't looking at their phone? Yeah. Like it's so weird. Like let me ask you this to kind of like bring everything to a, you know, solid ending here, is that this was a question that I wanted to ask you. And I want you to think about this in a perfect world, no matter what that means for this to happen.
That means I have a gigantic
yacht collection. That's it. Yes. No, but I want you to imagine that you have 1 week where you don't need your phone for anything. For this 7 days, 7 24-hour periods, you do not need your cell phone. And you can do and go anywhere that you want, and you will not be interrupted at all. What would you do?
Oh, man.
Like, let's throw the cell phone thing away. Let's say that, like, it's almost like you're living the 90s and the 2000s.
Right. I was going to say, I would, honestly, man, I would still either go somewhere like, I don't want to, not camping, but I would probably go somewhere like the woods. And, you know, like maybe like a log cabin or something. And I never used to think like that as a kid, but now maybe it is because the fact that I'm surrounded by cell phones and technology all the time, but like just that peace, have some beers, you know, have a fire, you know, cook my food that I caught or whatever. Like, honestly, that is, or I would probably go to like still like Ireland if I could just be uninterrupted.
Yeah. Like, I'll be back in 7 days.
Yeah,
like it's like, just
uninterrupted.
Let me have my week. Yeah.
I can go drink, eat food, go see sights. Now I would want to be able to take photos and stuff, but I get what you mean. Like there's no interruption with a cell phone or, you know, stuff like that. I'm very simple.
You're on a very, what I would say is on the communication aspect, you were on a mega do not disturb for that week.
Yeah.
Like it's like that type of thing. Like, you know,
do you know that, you know, with the growth of Riker Road and with, you know, things that come with that is that, you know, we both take care of different things on the show, but what happens to me anymore, and we are by far anywhere near anything on YouTube, on, you know, like a YouTube standard, but my phone is going off all day long. My phone, if it's not Instagram people messaging me or asking me something or us, or YouTube comments are coming through, and then, you know, the copyrights come through, and then it's emails, and then it is people texting me, and then my work wants to know stuff, and then it's like my phone doesn't fucking stop anymore.
Yeah. At
all. And I know that comes with the territory. I'm not complaining. Well, I am. But what I mean is that,
just being honest, this is what it's like.
It's just that it's not even to like a high caliber. And I think about that. I think about the fact that I kind of went away from my phone, like you just said, like 7 days, but I can't.
Right.
I can't. Whether it's something with my children, whether it's something with a family member, whether it's something with YouTube, whether it's something with, like, I have to have it.
Yeah.
And that's what I hate. And that's what I hate. But as far as to wrap up my, you know, I would travel or just go be.
So would you see it almost like you're kind of unplugging completely? Like you're
100%.
You're not even being in a normal conventional house. Like you don't got to be in a tent, but it's like, you know, it's like, no, dude, I'm going to go stay at a cabin in the middle of the woods.
Yeah.
And just not worry about anything.
Correct.
Just,
whether I'm
what I want,
whether I'm by myself or not, you know, or a staycation. Like it's just, I would do nothing. Like, honestly, I might play some games or do whatever, but I think I would like literally do nothing.
Yeah.
And that's what like entices me.
I've often thought about it, and the two places that I've wanted to move to, and again, I understand that there's a level of like, you know, money you have to be able to live in a good place in Colorado, but it's like living out like in the actual country. And just like you have something like that, like I would love to be out there. Or personally, I really want to go to Iceland.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
Iceland is it's got a lot to do with Death Stranding, but it's just like, dude, like there's just so many good like just looking landscapes there, and just like being able to know that it's like cool. Like I got a cabin up here, and I'm on, you know, this cliff that looks out to the ocean, even though I'm tired of it, or tired. I got tired of it, even though I'm afraid of it. You know, I'm terrified of it. It's like, nah, dude. There's something beautiful about nature. There's something beautiful about, you know, creation. There's something like, you know, I said evolution earlier, but it's like there's something more magical about it when you think about this, where it's like, nah, dude, like I get to just take all this in. And there's something even to be said about when you do camp and when you're out in nature, is that they've talked about that if your sleep schedule is screwed up, go sleep out in the woods. Do it for a few days. And what it does is that the night and day cycle, it actually takes care of you. It's like it conditions you to like wake up, like, you know, kind of like, you know, wind down whenever it gets dark, and then your body wakes up whenever, you know, it's light outside. Like it's stuff like that it's like I would try to like put all that stuff together and be like, all right, cool. I want to try all these things.
Right.
Like, you know, I'm going to just enjoy my time. I'm probably going to make a fire every night, sit out on my back patio, and just enjoy what I have. And, you know, I may read a book. I may, you know, take my acoustic and just maybe, you know, see what comes out or whatever, like just play some songs or whatever. I may record myself doing some things. I might make content when I'm there, but I'm not going to be connected.
Right.
It's
right.
Like, it's something that I genuinely want, and I've wanted to do for a while. And I don't know if I would ever do it to that severity of like, no one can get a hold of me or whatever, but it's like, I've thought about like, no, man, I'm going to get a little pup tent and I'm going to go to, you know, some, you know, whatever national park in a safe area that I know for a fact that there's no animals or whatever, like, because I've seen Missing 411. No. But it's like, nah, man, like I want to just enjoy it. And knowing that we even have the capability now to be able to make that happen, it's us getting over ourselves. It's communicating and making sure that, we have the ability to experience what it's like to essentially still be human. Is that
Right.
there's a human tendency that I truly feel that has been kind of lost. And I think that it's not something that you have to, go the whole like, oh, I'm a minimalist and I'm going to, get rid of everything. It's like, no, man, just center your gravity every now and then.
Right.
Think about where you're at and think about, just what you do on a daily basis. And, if you run a lap every day around your block, take a left instead of a right. Do something different. Like, just like shake up the shit a little bit. It's like, we're not here for a long time, but we're here for a decently good time. And that's only if we make it that way. So, yeah, man.
That's fair.
Yeah. So as we close up, do you have any final thoughts that you would like to leave us with?
Not really, other than just the fact of, that this world, I think the older I get, I realize this world does need to slow down a little bit. And it is the fact of technology just kind of, evolving as fast as it has. So, yeah, I think just slow down a little bit.
Yeah. Well, I think that tonight's conversation was good, and we're going to bring it to a close. So if you guys have been watching this long, we appreciate you. Definitely subscribe, follow us on whatever thing you want to, whether it's Apple Podcasts, whether it's Spotify, or if it's YouTube or anything like that. We really appreciate it, and we're excited for more content. I'm really happy that this worked out tonight. This was good. So, all right, guys, we're going to do our normal thing. So, Eric, toast the camera.
Guys, thanks for hanging out with us dorks. We'll see you next time. Cheers.
Adios.